In our show with Arran, we covered a lot that came up as a result of his job loss: lack of confidence, loss of identity, anxiety about the unknown, and more. So there's a million different paths I could take today, and it was hard to choose what to talk about. But I wanted to go with a theme that got all three of us animated: imposter syndrome. I've heard so many folks talk about this feeling, especially in professional settings. There's something that gets triggered in us when we feel pressure to have answers or expertise. It's crazy how almost all of us feel it, and yet we think we're the only imposters out there. But the consequence is that it can become a self fulfilling prophecy, right? You get nervous, you start to doubt yourself. So maybe you end up being more quiet than normal, or you fumble something simple. And then you end up not conveying that you belong or sounding like you don't know what you're talking about. So we cause the very thing we're afraid of. Man, we could do a whole show on that point, actually. Think of how many scenarios that applies to. But anyway, as with many challenging feelings, there's an opportunity to reframe. And you know, I harp on this a lot. What we say to ourselves internally is what our brain uses to create a narrative. But let's be clear, your brain isn't telling you that you don't belong in the room. You're telling your brain that you don't belong based on your feelings. Now, I'm not of the mind that we need to eliminate the feeling of imposter syndrome. I don't believe there's a need to eliminate any feeling, really. So when the imposter syndrome creeps up, it's a good time to have a little chat with yourself. Firstly, is firstly a word? I don't know. Anyway, firstly, you may find it easy to agree with certain facts on a rational level. I mean, you didn't stumble through a door accidentally and find yourself in the Oval Office during a war meeting about to present a plan. No, you entered this proverbial room with whatever established amount of competence or potential that granted you entry into that room. And you can probably own that if you think about it, right? But that's your rational mind being cooperative. It doesn't necessarily change the racing feelings that you'll be discovered as a fraud, that you'll be humiliated, that you'll be judged for not knowing what you're talking about. So the rational mind can help. That's a good start. But what do we do about just this spiraling boll weevil of feelings that don't care to be rational? Well, as in many scenarios, I don't recommend trying to resist those feelings or wait for them to go away before we move forward. Our goal, more successfully, would be to coexist with them as one of many possibilities. Yes, it's possible I'll say something moronic in a meeting. And it's possible my client might feel like I've been unhelpful during a session and I'll feel like a failure. And it's also possible that neither of those things will happen, or that I will fairly easily recover if they do. So, just right there, I have three possible outcomes. And of course, there are more. Part of managing fear, anxiety, nerves, etc., is chipping away at the power that they have over us, finding a way to lessen that dread of what could happen. That's our feelings trying to convince us that the embarrassing outcome is more likely than the others. That's our feelings trying to convince us that our only options are to be flawless or a fraud. But as I said on the show, the opposite of feeling like an imposter isn't feeling like an expert. The opposite of the feeling of imposter syndrome is feeling like you're generally capable even if you're unsure. It's a recognition that you have the potential to step up and that you don't have to be perfect. If I enter a room telling myself that I have to know everything and impress everybody, I'm going to fail at that because it's an impossible ask. If I go into a room telling myself that I'm going to do my best and have some value, no matter how small, to contribute and will likely recover from any blunders, it leaves me the mental and emotional space in my brain to actually access my competence and experience. Fear is the bully that's trying to shake you from feeling capable. but it's not telling you the truth. Fear is the actual fraud. All right, that's it for this deep dive. If you want to hear more or be a guest on the show, please email us at theunrelatingpodcast@gmail.com and interact with us on our socials. We want to hear from you, and we'd love to have you on the show.